Welcome, future masters. So, I was goofing around with some problems and I didn't record it, which is okay because it was pretty long. But good things happened. So, let me show you what happened. This will be the short version. So, I looked at this. Now, remember, I suggest the 4 elements checks number 1, captures number 2, piece contact number 3, board situation number 4, in any of that order. Doesn't really matter. It's just the order I came up with it, and that's the way it is. So you look at this, the board situation here is that if we use the brute force technique, rook h1 check, because we have these double rooks, rook h1 check, king g2, rook 8 to h2 check, king to g3. We're not getting anywhere, and the turtle is escaping from g2 to g3. So I logically deduced, well, if he's going to escape from g2 to g3, can we just stop him? This is the what if technique. What if we stop him from going to g2? So brute force technique forces him out and shows us his path, g2, g3. What if technique says, what if I block the path and I'm going to mate him? There's nothing he could do. Well, he can do queen to g2. Knight goes to here, it's still checkmate. Because you have a bishop and a rook corner combo plus double rooks in the corner. Only the queen could stop that. And then I would just go bishop takes queen, and and actually I don't do that. I just still checkmate him. Rook in the corner, queen takes, rook takes. It's the bishop corner checkmate technique. So this move was just nasty. I said, well, he could check me with throwing pieces away, and that's it. He can't block this. This one was, I don't know, 30 seconds to a minute. Not very long. And then he just starts throwing pieces away because that's all you have. In the old days of computer playing, which would be the late 70s, and still the early 80s would count, you'd have terrible computers that are chess playing machines that would come up with this thing and just throw pieces away at the end, called the horizon effect. They couldn't see very many, move ply, like 3 or 4 deep, because the computers were just terrible. Retrospectively, compared to our computers of today, which are just monsters. These were low-grade 8-bit machines, as opposed to now you have a high-grade 64-bit plus. So the horizon, well, I'm throwing a rook check, I'm not being checkmated. And literally that's what the computer program was doing. Rook check, I'm delaying checkmate. This delays a checkmate too. So this is what is known as the horizon effect in old computers, because literally their memory was not large. Their actual RAM was so small they could not hold enough information to say that this was clearly losing. Again, the horizon effect is what this is. So, because it's called the horizon effect because it would, in the computer's mind, it would fill the memory with this check and capture that it would take precedence, and the checkmate that finally could barely see coming would be pushed off of the horizon. It's like if you look at old like PlayStation 1 or Nintendo 64 games from the 90s, you'll see this fog. And it's the fog effect of the 90s 3D games. So the computer's horizon effect is the same as a fog effect in a 90s video game. So that was pretty interesting. But, clearly bishop f3 was the winning move. And then some. Oh man, this one was a toughie. I'm not even going to lie. I was doing this, and I'm like, oh my God, I hate these problems. This is one of those. This is one of those. It's a study problem. Some jerk was sitting in his room for several hours or days and came up with this genius idea. I mean, they're cool and everything. They're super hard to figure out. So he took my queen, and it's like, okay, look, we have three apparently, and this is the genius of the puzzle, apparently discombobulated minor pieces to beat king and queen. Now, clearly, if we could swipe this knight to f3, we'd win. Well, that would be too easy. So what it becomes is becomes a deductive logic Sherlock Holmes type of a situation. So it's like you see this bishop is cutting across here. This is doing a fantastic job. These pawns are also there for a purpose, as is this one. These are kind of like the perimeters of the fence. So I realized I needed to check this guy, forces his king to have only one square, which my rule says when you're doing this to the king, harassing him with checks, if he has one square, you're probably winning. So this one was the easy move to figure out. I'm like, yeah, we're going to look at checks first, obviously, right, to make sure. So that one was cool. King d5, yeah, it's forced. So now I'm like, man, I don't have. I had a great move. Bishop e4 check. Queen takes check. Oh, king takes. Oh man, I'm screwed. So half of bishop to e4 works. The other half loses. 50-50. I'm getting better, you know. So, and then what it hit me when you're doing these problems. One of the things that I don't know, I would say it's fairly common in these constructed artificial problems, is that because this is not from a game situation. This is a kind of like a math professor's construction. There's always a point to what's going on, and one of the points to these kind of problems, one of the many possible points, but that is usually one of the most common would be Zugzwang. So we're trying to make a move. We want to take his good squares away. And one of the things is my dad's rule. What is this guy trying to do to me? Well, he's trying to play queen to d6 check. And so I was going through all these ideas, knight here, trying all kinds of tricks, you know, and they all stunk. And then I realized, well, what if I zugzwang this guy? You can't go here, you can't go here. His queen can't go any place good. His queen goes here, I fork him. You get the drift. Okay? So, he'd like to make room for his king to go king to e5. But the problem is, I own this square, I own this square. I own this square because of the check. I own this square with the bishop. This one, I own this, heck, I don't know, but I own it. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I own this square because of the knight check. I own this with the bishop. So this is a tremendous piece placement here. I own this square. This one is terrible because I hit him with bishop. No, here. Yeah, why is this one terrible? I don't even know. I don't even know why this one's terrible, but trust me, it's terrible. It's terrible. But anyway, I don't know, man. I realized what he was trying to do was queen to d6 check. So I took that square from him, and every move he makes is terrible. But for the life of me, I can't figure out why this move loses. Maybe it's just simple check. And then I get him here. Yes. So this is a brilliant construction because every piece is on the square it needs to be on to take the squares from the queen. So it was a Zugzwang problem, but you just got to get the king here, and then you play this Zugzwang move, and then he plays a move. After he plays this, any idiot can win this. Okay? which is good because I qualify. After he takes the pawn, it's cakewalk. I'm like, okay, you're going to go to D4, E5, dude. I mean, look, it's just no, 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 yes. No, I'm sorry. No, yes, E5. So, tremendous deductive reasoning is what that was, and goodbye, Charlie. All right? That was tremendous. But it took way longer, and so I'm glad I didn't make a video of that. This was another one. White plays, knight takes. I'm like, you freak. What am I doing? Rook takes knight doesn't work. And then I was looking at this, I'm like, oh, dude, this knight's attacked. Why don't I just pin this dude? I thought I was so clever, right? So I did this. I'm like, that move's awesome. I go, that's cool. It's like, oh my God, this guy's a jerk. The natural move, queen takes knight, queen takes, rook checks me, you jerk. I'm like, really, dude? I swear to you, I did not see rook to c1. I thought, this is it. He's toast. Wrong. I thought maybe he'd play rook d1 and I'd just play like maybe bishop to a7, attacking this f-pawn. Rook c1, I never saw this move, but this is one of those things, man. My spidey senses told me that queen to e2 was the right move, and it was. The toughie is like, okay, now what are you going to do, Bobby Fischer? Now, granted, I still could play bishop to a7. That is a legitimate threat. And to be honest, I didn't even think of this at this point. I thought, this cheap shot and freak. Oh, man. I'm like, well, wait a second. What if I just take it? But not with the queen. Normally, you want to... A lot of times, my gut reaction is to take and exchange pieces down, win the piece, and just really clean them down to rook and bishop versus rook, but I lose. I said, what if I just take with this rook? Dude, I got this nasty mate threat coming. I go, well, he could check me, and I'm just going to escape. And then he could check me and take my bishop, and then I'm just going to unleash the beast. Okay? Check. Queen f5. This pawn is there for a reason. Queen f5 check. He is getting smoked. All right? Like, king h4, rook checks. It's over. Right? So I'm going to take this knight. And then the question becomes, if we take this knight and expose our king, can we withstand the checks to gain advantage? And the answer is yes. I mean, he didn't even do it. He didn't even do it in a smart way. I mean, rook c7. I mean, what does that do? Bishop takes free rook is what my dad would say. I mean, now he can take it back, but I'm a rook up. I'm like, you're screwed, dude. I really don't know what this dude was thinking. Like, okay, whatever. But the answer was yes. I mean, I expected to check us here. And we go like king g6, and then the beast is unleashed. And there's nothing he could do. But that was kind of funny. So let's go to, and I just kept winning problems. So I was like, okay, let's go do this one. I'm just goofing around. I'm not even, I wasn't 100% trying. And that sounds really bad. Oh, yeah, you're not trying. You're on the 5-0. You went 5-0 not trying. I wasn't committed seriously to the process. So I was just like, did the first one good. Second one, I'm like, oh man, that was a jerk problem. I got the second one, I'm like, wow, man, that's awesome. I hate those problems, and I got it right. So, okay. Well, this one is like not too difficult. You could play here, rook f3, and all is safe. And you'll play like a bishop to e3 probably, or something like that. I don't know. And then I was looking at this going, to be honest, if this was in an actual game, I don't know. I know I would have played for sure my second choice. Blitz game, my second choice is what I would have played. But I was thinking about this now, and we have the luxury every time you see a problem, a chess puzzle, it's like you see the police car light. It's flashing, telling you something is going on, okay? I'm like, we don't just randomly show up and nothing is happening. We're playing a draw, okay? So I looked at this and I thought, well, I actually have Queen C2, which is a double attack on H7, and the bishop. But he takes my rook, I take his pawn check. I'm not getting anything spectacular out of this. So Queen C2 doesn't quite work. But the idea of this H7 double attack, I said, well, I have bishop takes pawn check. King takes bishop. But this is a good move. So bishop takes pawn check, king takes. I got queen H5, and I'm winning this bishop back. Okay, so that's good. But the rule is you find a good move. Bishop takes H7 is a good move. This would be like B or B minus. Very good move. But the move that I said, well, what if I do this? And this is a technique that even grandmasters have mentioned themselves. Is this, when you see this combo, bishop takes H7, check, king takes, queen comes up, flip flop the moves. So instead of bishop takes pawn check, play the queen move first. Well, turns out when you look at this, it's like, oh, well, this is hideous for black. Not for me. It's fine for me. I'm good. I could threaten checkmate and the bishop. Which one is it? Well, the answer is obviously he's not getting checkmated. Not immediately anyway. So this is the classic. I spotted the bishop H7 trick and then used the classic advice of flip-flop the move order. And it's a classic. And the flip-flop move order of queen H5 threatening the checkmate and the bishop just wins, as you see, quite easily. I'm on fire. Dude, I was 4-0 and I really wasn't trying on these problems. When I sat down, I wasn't trying. Okay, now we got another one. So, I see this one. Remember, checks, captures, piece contact, board situation. Well, man, I don't know how long it took you to see board situation of convergence on G2 with the bishop and the rook. And I'm compelled to play rook takes pawn check, setting up an evil windmill. If you haven't seen it, you should go and see I have like 2 windmill videos. The windmill is awesome because you have the ability to move with check. Like, he goes to the corner, rook F2, check. King to G1, rook to G2, check. Okay, so we have this. And one of the techniques you use on the windmill, when you're to me, I call this the pivot piece. This is the piece that's controlling the windmill, which is the discovered checking item, usually a bishop. Could be a queen, but could usually a bishop. So this pivot bishop, if it's attacked, you must consider that when you move the rook, you're going to get whacked. Queen takes or something, rook takes, something will take this if possible. So my pivot is under attack of this queen. So when that happens, we have the lateral just Pac-Man, waka, 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 waka. We can do this check, go back, check, go back, check. Okay, we can do that back and forth windmill. That's why it's so vicious. But when you have the pivot under attack, if I played, for example, like rook takes pawn check. Well, I'm sorry, rook takes pawn check, king into the corner, check. I'm sorry, yeah. No, he goes into the corner here. Sorry, my mistake. Yeah, here, if I just go rook takes pawn check, there's the possibility, not in this one, but that he could just play queen takes bishop to advantage. Like if he had a rook here, my queen wasn't backing it up. It's like, oh, you're just going to clean my clock. And, this is an undefended rook otherwise. Sometimes they'll just chop it and they'll kill the windmill, get a rook and a bishop for a queen. That's not terrible. So, but when your pivot is under attack, double check is usually the secret. Usually you'll play rook to G1, just diving in, especially if this pawn is on H2, you'll dive in here, check, and then he's double checked, so he's got to move into it, and so now this is all open, and then another rook will come in here, or a queen will pounce on the file. Now here, rook G1 check, king takes, double check, he has to take it. Queen to G5 check, diving in, it doesn't work because he's got knight to G4. That's gone. So I was like, well, that's bogus. But then I found another move. And it's one that was not covered in my other windmill video. So this is going to be labeled as a windmill video because this is, I couldn't imagine. I'm too lazy to try and work this out and figure up and make one up. So I don't like to go make up problems for stuff like this. But when I see this, this is the other windmill problem that I wanted to have, where the solution is an oddball move that you never see this move here. At least in my windmills, I haven't seen it. But this comes from my scientific rule. If the pivot piece is under assault, the double check is usually the best move. So I hit him with the double check, but on H2. The point of it's fairly obvious once you see the move. And he just gets checkmated. So this is like one of the rarest type of windmills you've ever seen, where he takes sideways. The double check is almost always, to the G1 or G8, whatever it is, right next to the king. It's just castling square. So usually it's G1 or G8. Those are the dive squares. You dive into that square. So this was an awesome windmill. And after I had the fifth problem, I had to get this windmill in here. So that's the whole thing. You're going to see this video as a windmill video. But like I said, this wasn't anything I was killing myself to do. It actually took longer than right now. It's like 23 minutes. So like this video, subscribe if you haven't subscribed. You get more gold. I'll see you later.